YouTube channel for the wide nation of sports by Hunter Tickle. Hit that subscribe button. What's up, guys? Welcome into the wide nation of sports. This is episode 20. Welcome in. We had a great podcast. I'm going to get into kind of what we're looking at here for today. First, the opener is going to be talking about Derrick Rose getting his recognition. I guess his jersey will retire next year from the Chicago Bulls. After that, we have Jaden Daughtry one-on-one with him talking about the Sycamores' scintillating start there in the Missouri Valley Conference and what it will potentially look like moving forward for them. Then we also have a college basketball update. I saw a couple games from the couch this past weekend. And then we also have, finally, an update on kind of what I saw from the Colts. I did go to Lucas Oil for my first game on Sunday. Let's go. The intro today is very close to my heart. As some of you know, I lived in Chicago for about 10 years. A lot of that was for the heyday of Derrick Rose with the Chicago Bulls. And that dude was a legend. Did it the right way. Never got hardly into much trouble. Was also a guy who just had explosivity out the wazoo. Was just a great guy. Getting to the basket. He was a decent shooter as well. Had a great handle. Really did things his own way. Wasn't like any of the current cats in the NBA. I would say he was definitely had some similar, was prone to kind of play a little bit like Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson is actually a little bit smaller than Derrick Rose, about 3 or 4 inches shorter. I feel like if you saw them together, maybe they're not listed that much of a disparity, but I feel like Derrick Rose is at least 4 inches taller, 3-4 inches taller, and as well as a bit heavier, a bit stronger, a bit more built, a bit more meaty compared to a slender Allen Iverson. Growing up, Allen Iverson was the GOAT for me. He was my favorite player of all time to watch. I don't think he's the greatest player to ever play the game, but he is the guy that I most enjoyed watching growing up. So with that, Derrick Rose returned to the United Center on the 4th, January 4th. That was Saturday. And came out, a lot of his homies, a lot of his ball players that were with him with the Bulls were there to recognize him. They announced that they'd be retiring his jersey next year. Don't even get me started on why it didn't get retired this year, but the Bulls are trying to grab, I guess, a couple days out of honoring Derrick Rose a year apart. I guess that's a money grab, if you want to call it that. But Derrick Rose, to me, was a player that I love watching. I did get to see him play once at the United Center. It's a hot ticket when he was there, and I didn't get to always go, but my buddy, shout out to him, got me to that game with some of my other friends. And we saw, I think it was like a Wednesday night, just quickly got the invite to go. I said, yes, when, now, let's go. And I went to that game, and lo and behold, Derrick Rose hit a half-court buzzer beater at halftime. It was pretty cool to see and witness that. I remember we got the Bulls training jerseys when we walked in the door. A night that I won't forget. And dude was so explosive. He had so many plays that I just won't forget. And a lot of fun to watch. A lot of fun to watch. Like I said, the dude was an OG. He just did it his own way. He was original. He was authentic. He didn't model his game after anyone. He really wasn't comparable to anyone. And in all that, it was a real treat to watch him play. My first time I actually saw him play was December 19th, 2007. I know, going back a little bit. He was a freshman at Memphis. That was the Memphis squad that went runner-up at the NCAA tournament. They didn't get it done. They missed some free throws down the stretch. That was their Achilles heel in that game. People talked about it all postseason, but it really didn't rear its ugly head until the championship game. And, of course, that opened the door for Mario Chalmers to hit a 3 to tie the game, sent to overtime. And the Kansas Jayhawks got it done after that. That team was coached by John Calipari. You had guys like Joey Dorsett was on that squad for Memphis. Chris Douglas Roberts, I should say. And they were loaded. I definitely thought they were going to take the championship, but ended up getting second. But yeah, that year I saw him play at Cincinnati. I was in my undergrad at Cincinnati. and he lit up the Bearcats, who were recovering after letting go of Bob Huggins. He dropped 26 in the Shoemaker Center. It's now called Fifth Third Arena, and that was really cool. I was pretty close to the court in the student section for that game, and that was a treat. That was really kind of his coming out party in college, which he was that diaper dandy, as Dick Vitale would call him, and those freshmen back in those days. All right, so another memory I have of Derrick Rose was Christmas Day, 2011. For me, growing up, watching the NBA on ABC on Christmas was kind of the start of the season. Not only because, well, that's just kind of was the de facto start for a lot of true fans, or a lot of the, I guess, casual fans, all the fans, really. And for me, it was the start because I didn't have cable. Growing up, I never bought cable, never paid for ESPN, never did any of that. Just had the rabbit ears, and I'd throw on the ABC, which was the first game of the year that they put on basic television was Christmas. They had like a quadruple or triple header that day, and it's always special. But yeah, I remember watching Derrick Rose. I was at my brother's house. My brother Steve, I was at his house in the suburbs of Chicago, and Derrick Rose and the Bulls were in LA playing Kobe Bryant, and it was a dandy of a game. I'm just going to kind of outline kind of how it ended. About 20 seconds left. The Bulls are down 1. And Luol Deng gets a steal near midcourt as the Lakers were trying to advance the ball. And immediately gets the ball to his guy, Derrick Rose. And Derrick Rose had the ball. He was dribbling on the left wing. Matched up with Derek Fisher. Had about 12 seconds to kind of get something done. Cleared everybody out. He was going to take on Derek Fisher. Give him a little crossover. Got into the lane. About the top of the paint. Stopped. Over comes Pau Gasol. Pau Gasol. He gets a hand in the vicinity of Rose, but it's a little too late. The help's a little too late. D Rose comes to a stop and rises up for a jump hook. Right over the outstretched hands of Gasol. Nothing but net. Game over. That was the winner there in the Staples Center. Left them stunned on Christmas Day. That was with 4.8 seconds left. And then Kobe Bryant came down the court looking for the retort. He got inside the lane, and his shot hit the side of the backboard. Always remember that. And this really opened up the championship window for the Bulls, where you thought they kind of arrived, and Rose, what was so interesting about him was he was like a reluctant star. Like, he was a great natural ability, scoring, passing, everything, but he always wanted to get everyone involved. But the thing about that Bulls squad is they didn't have stars. They had him. He was the star. So this was kind of that moment where you're like, okay, he's understanding that he needs the last shot. He needs to kind of create on his own. He needs to be the guy to take them to the promised land and potentially get back to winning championships. Championships the city hadn't seen since his airness, Michael Jordan. That didn't come to be, though. His third All-Star selection, I also remember another moment, was 2012. Mind you, he was the youngest MVP ever to win. He was 22 years old and 6 months when he won the MVP. Just ridiculous. Absurd right there. But yeah, with his third All-Star selection, he's standing next to LeBron James and Dwight Howard of the East for their intros for that All-Star game. And, Dwight Howard eventually played for the Lakers and everywhere, it felt like. LeBron James eventually played for the Lakers, and, he did the Heatles thing. So that was pre that. But, those two were there kind of being like Hollywood, soaking up the exposure, like nodding their head, acting like pompous superstars when they got introduced at the All-Star game, like they were tooting their own horn. And then you have Rose off to the side looking at them, and he's just like, honestly, I don't think he would say he was disgusted, but he looked disgusted. He looked like a humble star, just kind of embarrassed by these equals or lesser than him, and Dwight Howard, guys just being like pretentious ball players right there, and he didn't want to be there. You could tell like that stage was the last place that he wanted to be in the world in that moment. And then when you look at kind of the demise of that Bulls uh, roster and the legacy and the franchise, what that particular squad had going for them, you got to go to the 22 NBA playoffs opener for the Bulls, and this was a squad built, like I said, to play defense. They're gritty. They're built to play around Derrick Rose's strengths, built to not be selfish, just like everything Derrick Rose embodied. Just really hard nosed. Tom Thibodeau was their coach, and they bore all that out through the coach, through Rose, through everyone. Just really like a really blue collar, hard working team that you figured was at some point going to get to the finals or maybe even win a championship, but none of that came to pass. And the moment that really crushed that was in 2012. They're in Philly for the playoff opener, and I witnessed probably one of the most brutal injuries I've ever had to witness of a player that I was rooting for and a team I was rooting for go through. Chicago was up 12 late, about to take game one, but Rose was in the game, looking to ice it. There was a little more than a minute left, so I don't blame Thibodeau for doing that. But Rose drove, jump stopped in the lane, and then elevated. I don't know if people do that anymore, but he had two jumps in quick succession, and as he did that twitch move there, as he would do a lot of the time in different situations, kind of a twitchy player, a guy that was really just quick. He dished the rock, but he came up hobbling, looked innocent enough. But as we all know, innocent enough probably can sometimes be a very serious injury, and it escalated. It turns out he tore his ACL. So he missed the entire next season. With it came more drama about him not coming back sooner. Suffered more injuries after that in the latter years with the Bulls during his Bulls stint, which I don't know if you guys realize, but he's a hometown boy. He's homegrown from Chicago, went to Simeon. I covered that at high school when I was there, freelancing for a bit. And so this was Chicago public school powerhouse. And I'm sure Rose, if he would have had it his way, would have played with the Bulls forever, for his whole career. But his final year was in 2015-16 in the Windy City. And, a lot of us will be left wondering, well, what if? What if Rose had stayed upright? What if Rose had gotten a second superstar to play with? What if Rose had better doctors that could have helped him come back sooner and better and get back to his old self? What if Rose hadn't played so fast and quick all the time? And I get it. You can't turn those things off just for certain situations, but that's the way he played. Couldn't stay healthy. And as the folks say, the rest was history. Shout out to Derrick Rose, true legend. And now we got a great one-on-one here with Jaden Daughtry, where we go into a lot of different topics. It's the first time that I was able to catch up with him. I was on the beat covering the Sycamores the past year and a half. But this is the first time I got to catch up with him post Josh Shirt's regime. We got a great guest here today. His name is Jaden Daughtry, and he has been having a pretty good time right now with the Indiana State Sycamores men's basketball squad. He's been tearing it up. He's scored 19 or more points 5 times this year. Sycamores are now 3-1 in the Missouri Valley Conference, riding a bit of a high with a great start. How are we doing today, Jaden?
Good. Can't complain. Just got out of practice. Kind of snowed in right now, but everything's good.
That's right. The Sycamores are going to be playing at Valpo here on Wednesday as they look to try to win their fourth out of their first five conference games. As you know, Jaden, right now we got about 8 inches of snow the last 24 hours here in Terre Haute. So
Yeah.
I guess my first question, based off kind of that topic, is where were you spending snow days in growing up in Richmond, Virginia, or how were you spending those snow days? Getting shots up in the gym, or what did those days kind of look like for you?
Well, when I was younger living in New York, a lot of snow days we couldn't really leave the house. So, it wasn't really too much to do. But other times, regular at Richmond, trying to find a gym, it didn't really get as bad as it was out here, So we kind of got a little more space to maneuver out there. But, on the snow days, really just trying to find a gym, probably go outside, walk to the courts or something. If you could. Hopefully, they usually put sand down because it's at the elementary school that I live next to. So usually we'll go out there sometimes, get some shots up. But, it's not as hard as it is out here because, Richmond, we don't get as much snow. But what we do, it's usually a lot, though.
No doubt. And then, as I mentioned, JD's been having a big moment here for the Sycamores, and the Sycamores have been having a great start to the Valley, Missouri Valley Conference. Jaden's been shooting 61% from the floor in the last three outings. One of those was out of conference. And yeah, like I said, he scored 19 or more points against Ohio State, Bradley, Missouri State, Arkansas State. So I want to start there, Jaden. Can you tell me, kind of from your viewpoint and kind of what you've been seeing out there, just like how are you just seeing the court, particularly on the offensive side of the floor this year?
I feel like it's just a lot of just come with maturing, just putting in extra work as far as just going get an extra workout in or coming in early before practice, watching some films, just you start to work on things in your game a lot more. It just the game starts to slow down for you. It starts to become easier. Like Stretch used to say last year, you learn the game, it just starts to slow down for you. And I think that's really just what's been happening lately.
And then you've been doing it largely off the bench. I know you've gotten some starts this year, but mainly you've been a reserve, playing about 18.8 minutes a game this year. Do you feel like you want to be pushed into that starting lineup, or do you feel like you've settled into as a guy that can kind of give a lift off the bench, and maybe you're more concerned about being in there to close the game?
Oh yeah, I'm kind of more just kind of want to finish the game. Starting, I never really cared about that too much. So I'm not really too worried about that. It's really just coming in and making sure that when I do come in, just bringing a spark. Try to change the game around for the better, whatever it is. So I don't really mind about the whole starting situation. Me and Graves have talked about that a little bit earlier this week.
And then JD, again, folks, we got Jaden Daughtry on here. He's a forward slash wing for the Indiana State men's basketball program, the Sycamores. When you look at kind of, I want to rewind to last year. Let's go back to the end of last year. So it had to feel a little different or be a little bit
Uh-huh.
odd, kind of going through almost like a rebuild in terms of losing your coach that recruited you, and then the seven players in the rotation that were ahead of you. Two were seniors, five hit the portal. They're not back.
Yeah.
But you come back to Paradise. Can you kind of break down why you did, and maybe looking now at where you were at in the season, like what that's looked like for you?
I'll say for one, even if I did want to transfer, I didn't really have too much film that I could use to get into the portal. Um, and for two, I trusted Graves. I talked to Graves, and at first I was looking forward to going with shirts to St. Louis, but after talking to Graves and he just hearing what he had to say and how his plans were for me next year, I just trusted Graves. I felt like I could definitely do something great for myself and with the team next year if I stay here, put another year in with him. And I honestly, I just trusted Graves. In the beginning of the season, we went into Miss Angie's office, who runs basically the athletic things on hiring people. And we basically talked to her and just told her like, a lot of us stay if you do give Graves a job. And I was one of the ones in the room that day. And honestly, I like Graves as a coach. And me and him have a pretty good relationship. So I feel like it was really a lot of Graves bringing me back and just staying one more year in Paradise, bringing something good to this town. Because the town, they take care of me, they take care of the basketball team, the basketball program, and I felt like leaving them without really showing them anything wouldn't really that wouldn't really leave a good taste in anybody's mouth. But I'll definitely say Grays in the city.
Yeah, it sounds like you got that continuity considering Graves was also a part of who recruited you, and he was a guy who was who's here for all 3 years with shirts as well.
Uh-huh.
Can you kind of last year, you got some run last year off the bench. The injury bug struck a little bit late for the Sycamores, and you got some more playing time and some more opportunity and a little more tape in there as well. Um, but last year's squad ultimately, you guys won that regular season Missouri Valley Conference Championship. Hadn't been done a while in Terre Haute. And then you guys also got to the championship game in the conference tourney. And then you got to the championship game. You guys were runners up in the national invitation tournament. Can you tell me like what maybe you grew the most from or what kind of helped your game the most about last year?
I'll say definitely playing behind Robbie and Jabo. Definitely, I feel like that's helped my game a lot, and I say that all the time because it's like I just look at my film and I just think to myself like, they did the same exact thing. They'll do the same passes, and just like offensively and defensively, I feel like playing behind them for a year, like Jabo, Coach Sir says that that's the smartest player he's ever coached, and then Robbie is Robbie, of course. So, just being able to sit behind and just watch them, like all their mistakes, all the things that they did good for like a full year, I feel like that was just good for me and for my development. And I feel like it's definitely helping with my game now.
And then JD, I know you're a lefty. I know that's a spot where that gives other teams a different look. Like when you got the rock, when you're handling it, when you're shooting it, it's just a different look. I think it can definitely be an advantage for you. Anyone that you feel like you've modeled your game after?
Um, Not exactly. I'll say growing up, I always looked up to LeBron. Just watching him and him being versatile as he is at his size. I kind of always like to form my game around his, just to be a versatile player. Huh? Hold on 1 second. You said what? Huh? I'm doing an interview right now. I'm good, low key. Fuck it, come on. I'm sorry, but yeah,
You're good. You good. You good.
I definitely we got the legendary Coach Celeste here. Walk the rest of the way. But I'll definitely say I just like to be versatile for real. I watched LeBron growing up a lot, but
Okay.
I won't really say I really form my game around anybody. I
Hmm.
just always like to be, try to be versatile. That's really about it. But
Yeah.
yeah, growing up, I just always watched a lot of LeBron. My dad always talked about how he was a walking mismatch and how he could play different positions. He's kind of like an on-court coach, and that's kind of what I tried to be for the team and just being able to play multiple positions if I need to, and if anybody doesn't know what to do, being a person they could come to, like it's just another on-court coach. And that's really just how I kind of model my game growing up.
Who you got, Jordan or LeBron?
Definitely LeBron. Definitely LeBron. We could
Mm,
debate about it too.
okay. And then JD, what can you tell me? You mentioned earlier about playing in New York or growing up in New York for a little bit. Anyone you played in that New York City circuit that you can kind of name drop and some of those what does some of those battles look like?
I'll say definitely growing up playing with a couple of hitters that's in college right now. Like I know it's another people call him my twin, Jaden Daughtry. He's at Marist right now. He's playing right now.
Hmm.
A couple other cats, my cousin Nacy, he's at Queens College.
Okay.
And a lot of couple we got some other people who went to JUCOs, not as much, but growing up, it was a lot of guards. A lot of people that was just going to the park every single day. Everybody, different type of people, me and different people going to different courts. But it's a lot of people out there in New York. I feel like it's kind of under recruited because it's just so many players, there's so many not as many schools out there, but I feel like it's a lot of underground players that haven't really gotten seen. Thank you, coach.
JD, what borough were you playing in typically?
A lot of Queens.
Okay.
A lot of Queens, but during the summertime, I was usually all around.
Okay.
Taking the train with a couple of my boys,
Hmm.
going to play in Brooklyn or going to the Bronx for a tournament and
Hmm.
coming right back. But originally in Queens, though.
That's awesome. JD, I want to get you out on this one. Again, we got Jaden Daughtry here. He's a wing for the Indiana State Sycamores. They're playing at Valpo on Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
What's the biggest thing you feel like you've learned from Matthew Graves, or maybe just that he's brought to the table in order to get you guys off to this 3-1 start in the Missouri Valley Conference?
I'll say he's definitely brung everybody together, like a great job just getting everybody together and getting everybody on the great page. In my opinion, it's real hard for a new head coach to come in with a brand new team and
I think I
automatically
lost
have
you.
a great
Oh,
team.
I got you back.
Can you
I
hear me?
lost like the last 10 seconds. Can you go back about 10 seconds for me?
Yeah, I'll say definitely just being a new coach and coming into a new team and having to rebuild, especially after the year that we had last year. It was a lot, and it was definitely hard for Coach Gray. So I feel like he's been doing a great job, just like getting everybody together and getting this young team up to speed on just how to play Missouri Valley basketball. And I feel like he's been doing great weather in the storm as far as like all the outside noise as well.
And now, a couple notes that I made from what I was looking at from the UE ISU game. ISU got the win there at UE, a close one. Um, that was a game that I thought the Sycamores did enough to win on the road. You want to kind of squeeze out those road wins in the conference, and they got it done. I will note that at the end of the game, you watched a basket with a lid on it on both ends to close out a nail biter, and the Sycamores got it done. They got done from the free throw line. Jaden Daughtry was great from the free throw line. Aaron Gray, who was on the squad last year with the Sycamores, was one of the few returners who got in the game last year. He had the 2 free throws at the end to ice it, to send it to a 4-point game. Shout out to him. I will admit also that Indiana State missed a lot of contested layups there towards the end of that UE game. Um, if they're going to want to kind of take a next step and win games like they lost in overtime to Bradley, they're going to have to make those and kind of learn how to close. But this is, I'll say it again, this is a moment that's good for them. It feels like they're relevant in the conference at 3-1, second place, and for them, just keep getting better. And Coach Matthew Graves has repeatedly said, like, they're just looking at being in the running for winning on Sunday in the championship game of the Missouri Valley Conference at the end of in the conference tourney when it's all said and done. Can they get there? Can they be in the spot to potentially win? We'll see. I will say Samaje Teal and Marcus Harding were 2 of the more touted guys coming in from the portal. Marcus Harding came from Central Michigan. Samaje Teal came from Presbyterian Blue Hose. Haven't been sharp from the action I've seen here in the last 2 games against Bradley and UE. Something to monitor going forward to see if maybe there's a switch or if they're going to kind of bounce back from that. And maybe to see if what does this squad look like if Jaden's scintillating superb performances in his recent outings maybe pushes him into the starting lineup, or whether Matthew Graves elects to keep him coming off the bench and giving them a huge boost. Final topic of the day is the Colts. On Sunday, I went and saw them beat the Jaguars in overtime at Lucas Oil Stadium. That was my first time going to an NFL game. I've been a fan of the NFL game for almost more than 2 decades. And when you look at it, the Colts got it done. I would have liked to see Jonathan Taylor run the ball more. Dude is a freak. He's already had 200 games in his career. He did play well in that game. He had a lot of jump cuts that got him into the open field and made tacklers miss. Just jump cuts galore. And they got to really ride him. He's got to be their main focus. I don't know if that's been the case from what I've viewed watching them on TV all year. Feels like Jonathan Taylor should be the centerpiece, and it shouldn't even be close. He's the best offensive player for the Colts. And something else to monitor is Joe Flacco coming back. He looked pretty solid to me, and just seeing him live, looked like he's having fun. Looked like he's getting the ball where he wants it. He's got precision. He's got assurance in every step, every throw that he's making. He scrambled out wide on a 4th and 1, excuse me, and tried to make a first down rush outside. I was shocked to see an old man Flacco, the old fart, trying to do that. Didn't get it done. He initially looked like he got the first down, and then upon further review, they ruled it that he didn't get the yard to gain. And yeah, you just gotta wonder, will he be wearing the royal blue next year? Alec Pierce and him hooked up for a 40-yard touchdown, 1:10 into the game. Alec Pierce I think he's had a breakout year. I think he's been a really good receiver, really great deep ball guy. Joe Flacco's looked for him a lot. Anthony Richardson's looked for him deep. Obviously, him and Richardson had that great hookup early in the season where Richardson's on his back foot and just hoists the ball like 60 yards in the air for a touchdown to Alec. The former Bearcat. He's got 1 year left on his rookie deal, the former second-round pick. We'll see what the Colts do with him. At this point, he's kind of the number one receiver. You could say Michael Pittman is as well. Splitting hairs there, but I feel like Pittman actually didn't have a great year. It was kind of a quiet year for him. And yeah, it was great to see my first NFL touchdown courtesy of Alec Pierce, the former Bearcat, us Bearcat alumni. We love seeing that. It was cool to see. And one more note for this episode, I want to give a shout out to Coach Sean Neville. Guy is just tearing it up in Brazil right now with the high school basketball squad there at Northview. He's won now in his second year, is in the middle of his second year there with Northview. He's won 25 of his first 37 games. It's absurd. And he's crushing it. And his torrid run started late last year when they won 6 of their final 7 games of the season. Of course, 6 ran them through the sectional, and then they lost in the regional regional final. I forget what's the standard format now for IHS AA now these days. But so that means the Knights, if you go back to that streak, have now won 17 of their last 18 games. Wow. So this year they won the first financial Wabash Valley Classic, 4 wins, and of course got it done with a win over Terre Haute North in the final, beat them by 12 points. That I don't feel like that happens a lot. I know. Thanks, y'all. Peace.